In 1992, Princeton upset Syracuse to win its first NCAA title. Since then, the Tigers have won 6 national championships and emerged as a powerhouse in the Ivy League. Naturally, you'd think these two Northeast programs would meet consistently, but this is the first matchup between the Orange and Tigers since 2013. Both squads hope to bolster their tournament resumes on Saturday, and we've got everything you need to know right here on Cuse Countdown. Welcome inside the CitrusTV studio for Cuse Countdown. Syracuse men's lacrosse takes on number 15 Princeton on Saturday, the first of 4 strength-ranked matchups. Here to break it all down, Chilekasi, Adele, and Letson. I'm Joe Puccio. Fellas, Cuse Countdown last week was pretty solid, but none of the analysts could have predicted a fourth-quarter collapse from Syracuse against Notre Dame. The final score, 20-12 against the Fighting Irish. But what the final score won't indicate, Chile, is that SU had a lead in the fourth quarter. What happened?
You know, Joe, it just, as a matter of fact, SU started off slow, warmed up, and then went cold. I mean, I think Gary Gates said it best. He said, we ran out of possessions and gas. It was a matter of second-half face-offs and defense. SU starts this game off down 5-0. Come back, comes into the second half, take the lead for a small second, and boom, poof, all goes away.
Well, what fans and CC couldn't have predicted was Syracuse playing its worst quarter of the entire season. And listen, I'm not going to lie to you. I keep replaying that no goal call on Finn Thompson in my head over and over and over again. Yes, it's frustrating, but that does not excuse what was to follow, because what was to follow was Syracuse looking for a call that was just not going to come. And what happened? Notre Dame stepped on their neck, Joe. They took advantage of Syracuse looking around because Syracuse proved that they could hang with the number 3 team in the country. They proved that they belonged to be there, but once that, for whatever reason, once that goal did not go Syracuse's way, everything changed. Face-offs, Syracuse could not get off the field defensively. It was a disaster, the most disastrous quarter Syracuse has played all season.
Who's going to lead? Who's going to lead?
That's
in
what
moments of adversity, who is going to lead? And that's exactly what didn't happen on Saturday. No leadership.
Well, that's what you have to look at in this box score, right? Freshmen didn't have any multi-goal games, not a single one. So you'll have to expect those freshmen to show up against Princeton on Saturday, and you're also going to expect the face-off guys to really step it up. We're not even talking about Johnny Rachusa this time around. It's Jack Fine. He went 12 of 30, pretty solid, but Notre Dame's Will Lynch, who isn't one of the best face-off men in the country, went 9 for 11 in the final frame. Zach, I guess it's an off-season question of if Syracuse can get a new face-off guy, but with 4 games left and hopes of getting into the tournament, what does SU do?
Right, you're 11 games into the season. A little hard to make that transition now, right? But it's a disaster. I don't know how you fix it, but what I struggle to comprehend, Joe, is how is it that you go 5 versus 5, 6 versus 6 in the face-off department against Notre Dame, and then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, that's all wiped away. That is what I cannot understand. Is it good that Syracuse stuck to one face-off guy, Joe? Yes. It's good that we didn't see, 50-50 like we've seen.
But then you get someone like Gavin Gibbs into the dot, and you're messing everything up.
You're throwing the kitchen sink in because nothing's working. That's the bigger problem. There is no solution, and this team misses Jacob Falk so badly, and that was not more evident at any point all season than those last 15 minutes.
Exactly. I think you have to ride with Fine going towards the end of the season. Rachusa just has not shown up. It's been a topic of conversation at X for pretty much the entire season. I'm almost sick of talking about it, but it's just the truth. You have to ride with Fine at this point, and you hope that he learns to play a more complete game because, he was hanging in there most of this game and then absolutely fell apart in the fourth quarter. You hope that consistency is key going forward.
Notre Dame shot 9 for 12 in the final quarter. During the post-game press conference, originally, Cole Kirst, Sam Alexo was supposed to join Gary Gate, but Sam Alexo didn't come out until the last question because of a defensive meeting. And once Alexo got to the podium, he looked pretty gruff.
Yeah, we played a lot of defense in the fourth. It's always tough playing a lot of defense. We just played a lot of defense. We need to rally when stuff hits the fan. We need to rally and we need to be better going forward.
did someone step on his puppy or something in the locker room? I mean, those eyes were bugging right out of his head. Not a single Orange defenseman had multiple caused turnovers. And the other point to this, too, is that Will Mark had a 40% save percentage, the lowest mark of the season. But, Zach, you can't blame the netminder for this woeful defense.
I could care less about Will Mark's statistics in this game. Listen, Will Mark kept you in the game. It could have been a 12-3 score, second, third quarter of this game. He's the only reason you gave yourself a shot to then go on that run in the third quarter, have a chance to pick up a win, which Syracuse did have a chance. But listen, what Sam Alexo said right there in the nicest way possible, hey, we need to win more faceoffs. If you're going to have the defense on the field for essentially the entire last 10 minutes of the ball game, there is no scenario where you can pick up a win. I don't care if you're playing Hofstra. I don't care if you're playing the number 3 team in the nation. Although, hey, when you're playing the number 3 team in the nation, it's going to be even harder. There is no scenario. I don't think Syracuse's defense was all that horrible at times. I think Sam Alexo's actually had a pretty strong year, especially these last couple of games. But there's no scenario, no recipe for success, Joe and Chile, when they're on the field the entire time. How much do you even see the Syracuse offense the last 8 to 10 minutes of the game? You didn't.
It was non-existent. You know, I feel as if it's a microcosm of something we've continued to see this entire season. You have a Syracuse team that's allowed nearly 11 goals per game on average. They've given up 118 goals in 11 games. Near the mid-tier of Division I teams. And again, you talk about the early deficits against teams like Notre Dame. Late game breakdowns on defense. You saw it against Duke, Hopkins, Maryland. You couldn't afford to not bring it. You had to bring your game against Notre Dame. They did in the center of that game, but the ends were absolutely ugly. And again, it goes down to the fact, yeah, we can talk about the defense all we want, but the offense has to show up. You have to show up at X, and that has been what's killing this team the entire season. And frankly, if you don't stop now, if you don't start getting it right, when is it going to get right?
Imagine if in the men's basketball national championship, if after every UConn 3, the Huskies got the ball back. That's sort of what it felt like in this game.
It's like make it take it.
Exactly, right? So who knows if lacrosse will change its role. But if this fourth quarter collapse didn't happen, we would be talking about Syracuse, who's receiving votes, hanging or potentially even beating number 3 Notre Dame, because those first 3 quarters had some exceptional lacrosse. Don't forget, the Orange only trailed by 2 at the break and once had the lead in the fourth quarter. Chile, what do the positives tell you about Syracuse?
Listen, this is a team that has hung in there with Notre Dame and also hung in there with Duke. I've been impressed. Again, it just goes to show you the little things, the little tiny things that need to be cleaned up. Face-offs, ground balls, things like that. 52 total ground balls on Saturday, 33 for Notre Dame, 19 for Syracuse. It's little things like that, and it all starts with the offense.
Are those little things, or are those big gaping holes the big keys to success when you win in lacrosse? Because listen, face-offs, I'll tell you what, Chile, I'll put it like this, right? In football, you can't turn the ball over if you want to win the game. In lacrosse, you can't win the game if you don't win faceoffs. It's that simple. Listen, yes, it is a positive that you're playing with the Dukes, that you're playing with the Notre Dames. Has there been progress since Gary Gate arrived and you went 4-10 your first season? Yes, everyone can see that. But I'm just so sick and tired of we were right there. Guys will get him next. You know what? You guys fought. You guys were up in the fourth quarter. Does that show up when you're 0-5 against ranked opponents? I don't think it does, Joe. I don't think it does. And it's just another really, really, really frustrating, quite frankly, a part of the season for Syracuse where they just are on the short end of the stick on against all these ranked opponents.
So one thing, if you lose the face-offs, you have to get some sticks in on the face-off X with your wings to try and force a clear and the ride. So what we'll do is look at this clear and ride for Syracuse and how SU has really dominated at the face-off X when guys like Sam Alexo and the midfielders come into play. Chile, this midfield for Syracuse has done its best, at least against Notre Dame, to erase some of those face-off problems.
You know, Joe, Notre Dame cleared 16 times on Saturday against SU, but there were 4 instances of the Syracuse ride that I found really impressive. Let's take a look at the tape here. First quarter, you'll see Liam Enseman, the goalkeeper for Notre Dame, he'll make a pass to his right, and it goes over here. Joey Spallina comes on, and you see this pass to the midfielder, Eric Dobson, with that little pressure, forcing him back and towards the middle, and it's a turnover because they can't get it across in time. A really good example of Syracuse being able to spread the field, going over towards the sideline, and then forcing the pressure back over. Let's take a look at this. Second quarter. Enseman, again, starts with the ball, passes it to Quinn McCann, and you watch Michael Leo here. Good positioning, really good positioning from Michael Leo. Breaks down, Not too close, not too far, and is able to get his stick up in time, and that's exactly what creates that play, that turnover for Syracuse. Now, this is a few minutes later in the second quarter. Entenmann walks out, and he'll pass it right over to Chris Fake. That goes to his right. I think it's really important to watch here. You think there's a lot of wide open room, but guess what? It's a play you'll see right down here in a little bit that really makes this turnover. They're not able to get it in time because of this box out. Here is Bryce Walker completely boxed out by a Syracuse defender, and that's exactly what makes that play. Let's take a look at one last one. Entenmann getting the pass. He gets the pass here, passes over to his right, and then you'll see the pass back to Entenmann. Goes over to Chris Conlon. And Conlon comes, and he throws it in the no man's land. No man's land. There are 6 Syracuse players there. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. That's exactly how the ride has worked in this game. It really worked well at certain points, and you were able to see the malleability, right? It's not going and forcing pressure every single time. It's keeping your space, staying in the center, but also making those checks when necessary down towards the sideline.
Well, Chile, let's hope that Syracuse can keep up that pressure against Princeton on Saturday. Hey, speaking of Princeton, we're talking about the Tigers coming up next right here on Cuse Countdown.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
We're back inside the CitrusTV studio for Cuse Countdown, getting you ready for Syracuse men's lacrosse bout with number 15 Princeton. Here to break it all down, Chilekasi, Adele, and Zach Letson. I'm Joe Puccio. Chile, I want to play a quick game with you,
okay.
if you can spare me here.
All right.
I want you to guess the program, okay? This team gives up double-digit goals per game, loses more than half of its face-offs, and hasn't beaten a ranked opponent this season. Who do you think it is?
That's a really hard one.
Guess what? I'll get the answer for you. It's both. Both Syracuse and Princeton have similar. Yeah, C, all of the above, right? They have similar issues. Syracuse and Princeton, both teams just middling around in college lacrosse right now. Chile, these are two historic programs that are in a similar boat.
Yeah, and Joe, I think this is really interesting because you have a Syracuse hanging in last place in the ACC, a really strong ACC, but you also have a Princeton who is like a mid-tier team and what I would consider a rather weak Ivy League, 4-4, third place. Only 2 teams in the Ivy out of 7 have records over 500. Listen, both of these teams have had some crushing losses. If you talk about Princeton, 14-13 loss to Rutgers, 9-8 to Penn, and then you obviously have Syracuse talking about the overtime loss to Duke. You talk about the valiant effort against Maryland falling short. But one thing I really like from both of these teams, they both like to share the ball. Princeton 7th in the nation in assists. Syracuse is 10th in that category.
I think you're hard-pressed to find a team that has more of a similar resume to Syracuse than Princeton. Somebody's going to pick up their biggest win of the year. Hey, guys, I don't know who it's going to be, but 2 teams that are combined 0-9 against ranked teams. Neither team has been able to bring it when you get to the stiffer competition. That's really been, Joe, where it's changed. And also in the close games, right? Syracuse picked up that 2-goal win to start the season, but outside of that, it's just 1-6 in games decided by 3 goals or less, both sides of them.
Gary Gate needs a ranked win under his belt. I mean, he probably won't get fired. We're not calling for his hit on this show, but at least something to build up his coaching resume. Let's cut right to the chase. Marquee matchups for Syracuse and Princeton. The first one to look at is Cole Kirst against the Princeton defense. He most likely will be matched up against one of the top cover guys for Princeton, Kahale Roberts. And Zach, when you have all these eyes on Spallina, Thompson, Hiltz, Cole Kirst in recent games has really shined.
Yeah, you said it. I mean, it's been a completely different layer to this offense that, let's be honest, I think it's gone way better than any fans, media expected when he came in. I don't think a lot of people, Joe, would have guessed that this guy'd be the third leading scorer on Syracuse's team, but that's the kind of threat he possesses. And guess what? It's not empty stats either, by the way. It's 4 goals against what's now the #1 team in the nation in Duke. It's 2 goals against Notre Dame, including Chile, arguably the biggest one of all, that big-time goal in the 4th against Notre Dame.
Definitely. And, Roberts, tied for the team lead in caused turnovers with 9 on Princeton, 14 ground balls over the course of the season as well. 3 against Penn in the game earlier this year. He's 87th in the country. Definitely a presence to watch with there. But Cole Kirst, I think he's going to dominate, honestly.
So when SU has the ball, the offense could run through Cole Kirst. When Princeton has the ball, it could run its offense through Coulter Mackesy, the top attacker for Princeton. The matchup to see is against SU's top cover man, which in recent games has been a midfielder, long stick midfielder, Sam Alexo. Chile, what do you see in that battle?
Listen, Mackesy, absolutely amazing. He's just a sophomore, 5th in the nation in goals per game, 10th in goals. When you look at the towards on the watch list, he's on it. 30 goals, 11 assists. Last year, the 4th most points by a Princeton freshman with 43, and he's also the Ivy League Player of the Week going into this week as well. Now you talk about Alexo, 24th in the nation in caused turnovers. He really uses that long pole really well. You saw that in that pickpocket he had against Notre Dame, which he scored to tie the game. He's a great on-ball defender, puts us in transitions well. He's aggressive, but here's the thing. He plays smart. Last year, Alexo did not play smart at all in a lot of these games. He's turned that around, and that's why he's been so lethal.
Yeah, let's be honest. I mean, this is the matchup of the game.
Yes,
find me a matchup, or find me a player, find me a moment where this Princeton team has had success offensively, and Mackesy hasn't played a part in it. It's been every single time, and we heard from Alexo earlier in the show about this defense has gotten tired. That is a huge matchup to watch. Like you said, I think Sam Alexo has turned it around big time this season. I don't think defense is as much to blame as it is faceoffs. But this matchup right here, Mackesy, he has 30 goals. Nobody else on this team has half that, Joe. Yeah. This is the guy that Syracuse has to neutralize.
Yeah, Mackesy, not only one-time Ivy League Player of the Week, but 2. He's one of the best players in the conference, one of the best players on Princeton. Zach, I'm happy to go to you for this last matchup here. It's a lacrosse cliche. If you want to win the game, you got to win at the face-off X. And both of these teams have tag teams at the dot. Zach, what do you make of this face-off situation?
Oh, the first thing that comes to mind when you look at this, at least from a Syracuse perspective, right, is it's got to be a welcome sight after you get beaten into the ground in that 4th quarter from a face-off standpoint against Notre Dame. After you lose badly face-offs to teams like Hofstra. I mean, Syracuse is not winning the face-off battle in the majority of these games, Chile. Yeah. So to go up against a team that has only a 46% rate, I understand that's still better than Syracuse, but that has got to be a welcome sight for this team. If you can't turn it around against Princeton, you're darn sure not turning it around from a face-off standpoint against the Dukes, against the Virginias of the world. So that's the kind of opportunity from X that this game presents.
And you look at the similarities between these teams in terms of inconsistency. You talk about Kinder, the sophomore for Princeton. He's been the guy as of late, hasn't taken that many faceoffs. But if you look at Tyler Sandoval, he's 86 in the nation. He was taking more at X, got a little bit injured there. And Ginder, after that game, taking over against Yale, won 15 out of those 29 faceoffs. But listen, Syracuse, this is something where, again, you have to marginally improve. I think that if Syracuse marginally improves this game, it doesn't have to be a complete knock the wind, blow the doors out of them. But if you just move small steps, I think it'll bode well for him in this game.
I mean, just take a look at that graphic, right? You have 2 players for each team taking face-offs. It looks like a doubles tennis match. Look how many players that they have rolling in on the face-off dot. Another area that Princeton has multiple players at is between the pipes. Last season, Eric Peters, one of the best collegiate goaltenders, had 207 saves in a single season, which was the 6th best ever in collegiate lacrosse. He graduates. He's too smart, graduated from Ivy League. So now 2 goalies are trying to find their footing between the pipes for the Tigers. Michael Gianforcaro and Griffin Rackower are the 2 goalies for Princeton that's trying to save some of the defensive woes. Chile, it's a carousel in between the pipes for Princeton. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think Gianforcaro is definitely the guy as of late for this team. Faced 61 shots against Brown last time out. He's 6th in the country in save percentage, but that's not that huge of a sample size. I think Rackauer, he gives up just over 11 goals per game. He had been splitting halves from most of the games down the stretch. Before the loss to Rutgers in overtime, that seemed to really be what changed things. Gianfrancaro got the loss, gave up 5 goals, made 10 saves in that overtime game. But Rackauer gave up 9 goals and 5 saves. That's what forced him out, and I think that's kind of what's changed it for this Princeton team between the pipes.
Well, Syracuse knows plenty about 50-50 goalie struggles, because that's exactly what the Orange dealt with a season ago. Yeah. Harrison Thompson, Bobby Gavin. There was no surefire answer in between the pipes. That's what Princeton's dealing with this year. That is why Syracuse has to exploit this matchup. When you have a top 3 goalie in college lacrosse and Wilmark, that's something that Princeton doesn't have. Syracuse has to take advantage of that.
Princeton's situation reminds me a lot of Syracuse's situation last year.
Yeah.
So Princeton may be looking for their own Wilmark this season. All right, well, when we come back here on Cuse Countdown, we're playing a little game of over-under. Zach Letson is known for not having great betting picks on CitrusTV programs, so maybe he can change the fortunes here. Don't go anywhere. Cuse Countdown continues after this.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Leaving hot coals improperly extinguished can cause a wildfire.
Hey guys, it's Smokey!
It looks as if Smokey is going to use the drown, stir, drown, and feel technique. After the first drown, a good start. Next, another drink. And finally, a close feel.
Is it cool? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Smokey, catch! Oh, my bad, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
We got a little bit of the game time here on Cuse Countdown, a bit of over-under prior to Syracuse's matchup with number 15 Princeton. Here to give their analysis, picks, advice, betting advice? I don't even know. Chilekasi, Adele, and Zach Letson, and I'm Joe Puccio. All right, fellas, there's some props coming into this game that our illustrious producers have come up with. Basing off of our knowledge against Notre Dame, there's some ideas that Syracuse can repeat or do better than they did last time. So the first question I have for you guys is at the Faceoff X, another segment where we're talking about faceoffs. But SU won 13 faceoffs against Notre Dame last time out, but lost 9 of 12 in the final quarter. So Chile, I'll start with you. Syracuse over under 15.5 face-off wins.
I'll say under, Joe, and here's why. Syracuse 66 out of 72 teams in Division I in face-off winning percentage. They've only won 129. They've lost 183 this entire season so far, and we're only like 11 games in, right? Don't forget, Syracuse has also won more than 15.5 face-offs, if you take a look at that prop right there, twice this season. UAlbany, 17 times. North Carolina, 16 times. They only won the battle in one of those 2 games. Albany. So it goes to show you Syracuse is going under here.
Chile, I'll tell you what, you stole my thunder, you stole my stat. But listen, yeah, that's a lock. I'll tell you what, it's under all day of the week, every day of the week, I should say. In this matchup, Syracuse has struggled so much from a face-off standpoint. We've talked about it ad nauseum. To get beaten by teams like Hofstra, Holy Cross beat you at the face-off X. I mean, it just has not gone Syracuse's way, and unfortunately, at the moment, I know we're 11 games in, but there's no other reason to believe otherwise. This team is incredibly unproven at that spot.
Well, Princeton doesn't have Johnny Faceoffs at the X. They're not incredible, so maybe that over could hit, and these two buffoons are wrong. Our second question is about the man up. Undoubtedly, SU has one of the best power play units in the country at over 60%. So, Zach, the question is, will Syracuse score on over or under 65% of its man up opportunities?
Joe, I'm going to go under, but it has less to do with the Syracuse man up and more to do with, that's a really high number, 65%. Right. So I think let's temper expectations.
3 for 4 against Notre Dame,
They did. But majority of the games, Hofstra, Hobart, they were under 65%. So let's temper expectations. I'll go under.
Listen, I'm going over. Going to this game, Syracuse has scored 29 goals, 49 opportunities. That's a .592 percentage. And if you look at this, Princeton is 59th in the country in D1 man-down defense. That's out of 72 teams. They've allowed 14 goals on 30 attempts. I think this is a ripe opportunity for SU, and it's going to capitalize.
So you guys aren't any sleuths, but where in the world is Joey Spallina? Right? 1 goal against Notre Dame. He's the leading scorer for SU. Let's not get that wrong. He's one of the best players, not just on SU, but in the country. But his scoring against ranked opponents, it has not been successful. So, Chile, it's a simple line. Does Joey Spallina score over or under 2.5 goals against Princeton?
Joe, I'm going under. Judging by Spallina's previous matchups, you talk about that point against ranked opponents, against good opponents like Notre Dame, Duke, Hopkins. He becomes less of a scorer and more of a disher. But I think here's the thing. We've seen that of him more so around the course of this season, where he's transitioned into more where he's still putting a lot of goals in the net, but he's also becoming more of a passer as well. I think that's still important to his game, but I think he'll score under 3.
Joey Spallina is salivating for a bounce-back game, Chile, and I'll tell you why. 1 goal, he had the only time all season he's had back-to-back games with just 1 goal. That was Duke and Hopkins. Those are 2 of the best teams in the entire country. Yeah. This is an opportunity for Joey Spallina to shine, especially, like you said, Joe, after a game where it did not go his way. He bounces back big time, 3, maybe even 4 goals against the Tigers.
All right. Well, hey, at the start of this segment, you had their Twitter handles right under their names. Make sure to tweet at them after the game once they get these picks wrong. All right, well, when we come back, we're wrapping up shop on Cuse Countdown, talking about the rest of the ACC. And, of course, prediction time. Don't go anywhere. Cuse Countdown continues after this. Tying up the bow here on Cuse Countdown. It's the Orange and the Tigers this Saturday in men's lacrosse. Chilekasi, Adele, Zach Letson, Joe Puccio, you know us by now. Syracuse is stepping out of the ACC play for just a little bit. Has some ranked matchups with UVA, UNC, and Duke to end the season. Chile, is it good for SU to sort of get out of the ACC bubble right now?
I think you can look at it 2 ways. I'm not really sure. I would argue bad. I would argue you won this game last week, and then you get the ACC to kind of finish it out. But I think this works as a get-right game. Judging by what happened on Saturday, there was a lot of lopsided stuff that we saw. There was a lot of things that SU needs to correct. So I think this is a good opportunity against the Princeton team that, frankly, is a little bit overvalued to get right here.
Yeah, it is a great opportunity. It's a great thing that Syracuse gets to step out of the ACC. It's like racing to the surface just to get some breaths, get your head above water, because you got Duke and UVA waiting for you. I'll take Princeton any day of the week.
Yes, sir.
Real opportunity, Joe, for Syracuse to boost some confidence.
Before we get to prediction time, we just want to give a special thank you to Zach Letson. His final Cuse Countdown here at CitrusTV. Zach, for those viewers out there, you don't know that once we go off the camera, everyone at the station loves you. So, Zach, thank you for all your work, and we can't wait to see what you do.
Thank you.
And now for the best transition in all of Citrus TV Sports, it's time for predictions here on Cuse Countdown. SU, Princeton, ranked matchup for the Orange against the Tigers. Chile, who comes out on top?
Syracuse wins this game 16-12, and here's why. I think the defense stabilizes. I think Woolmark, it's not his fault. It was more so the offense's fault. They got to get right at X. They got to get right with the ground balls. I think they have a chance in terms of a Princeton team that isn't the best in the country in terms of those two categories. They make those marginal improvements, and they win this game.
Syracuse by a goal, Joe. 12-11 in a great game. That goalie matchup's going to play a big factor.
That would be a big win for Syracuse heading into ACC play. Thank you for joining us here on Cuse Countdown. Make sure to enjoy the game, and then after the fact, check out OTN and YouTube for Orange Press Pass. It starts at 4 p.m. For Chile and Zach, I'm Joe. Thanks for watching.